This is a serious expat alert because in 2026, the US passport power is slowly declining. In fact, yesterday we covered the fact that President Donald Trump banned migration from 75 different countries around the earth. And today, we're going to tell you why your US passport may not get you into everywhere. In fact, inside of each region or continent, there's only about 5 to 6 countries that you can still travel to as an expat and not risk reciprocal passport and visa decline issues. Yes, there's only a few and we're going to name them, but remember, for decades, the US passport functioned as a guarantee. Lenient rules, easy entry, that was the age of American dominance with the world. But assumed goodwill at borders is no longer a thing. That era is completely gone because of all the geopolitical mess that's happening across the world with our president and Iran and Russia and China and everywhere else. Now today, we're speaking in a new area, and this is to show you that you too can exit the West and come to any of these regions that we are about to discuss, but you better do it with the quickness because times are changing.
Yeah, times are changing super fast. Like my wife was just saying, before it was the American passport had a lot of power, but now it seems like it has more problems than power. So if you are looking to move to another country, visit another country, scope out, another landmass, you better do it sooner than later because things are heating up, things are changing. As you see, if you've been keeping up with our videos day by day, week by week, everything is changing super fast in 2026. So it is time, family. It is really time to get serious. It's really time to move with the quickness, as my wife just said.
Now let's talk about why these changes hit mature adults over 45, digital nomads, and entrepreneurs the hardest. We tend to be the people that like structure and systems. And quite frankly, we've never lived in a world that did not have American dominance because remember, just last month, 30 ambassadors were recalled from across the world. President Donald Trump said, I'm pulling these 30 ambassadors from Niger, Burkina Faso, Mali, Mauritius, Madagascar, and more. And now, he's saying there's 75 countries that cannot even get a visa to go to the US unless they're just going to become tourists real quick. But remember, for the African continent, some of these countries have $15,000 bonds that they have to pay to even visit America. And then we are seeing a rapid increase in State Department travel warnings where they're telling citizens in Russia and Iran and all over, listen, you do not want to go to these countries. The U.S. Embassy will not help you. The U.S. Embassy may be closing in those countries because it is a wartime scenario. If anybody on this channel thinks that we are not in a World War III era, well, I feel so sorry for you. Even in the spiritual realm, you are going to have to gird up your loins and quote the scriptures, especially as you're traveling, because no weapon formed against you shall prosper, and anything that comes against you, you shall condemn in judgment. And this is the same faith that you want to take with you to these different territories across the world.
As you know, 2026 has been something different. It's been something that, like my wife just said, it's really time to fight. It's really time to, step into the calling that the Most High is really calling you to be. And you can't be scared. You really can't be scared. As you see in the physical, there's wars. There's literally wars. There's bombings. There's missiles flying. So if that's not telling you nothing like it's time to fight, I don't know what will, because things like this, when the American passport was top 10, now it's, I believe it dropped below top 10 now. So it's like, okay, so things are changing for Americans. But if you know what you're doing in the spiritual realm when it comes to fighting, I think you will be fine. So that's why we can come on here for you guys to be encouraged that everything's going to be okay, but you really got to know what you're doing. And this is why we are here, to really help you, walk you through kind of guide you through what is to be expected, because it's time, y'all. It's really time not to play around. It's really time to be serious and put that boldness of the Most High on.
Yes, for sure. You reminded me of this scripture, Genesis 3:15, where the snake is in the garden and he's trying to get to the heel of Eve. But Eve is supposed to have authority over the snake, because that scripture prophesies and says you would bite their heel, but they would bruise your head, representing the authority that is shifting. This is happening right now in real time. I want to tell you something I saw today before we get to the countries and some of the regions that are safe. President Donald Trump, we all know that he has been talking about how he's going to overtake Greenland. It's not a if, but a when. And guess what the president or Prime Minister of Greenland said? This is going to throw you off, but if you are somebody that reads the scriptures, then this is going to sound familiar. He said on international news, this is a public statement, that he is denying access for President Donald Trump and 100 generations of his descendants to even come into Greenland. This is literally sounding like biblical times right here, where this man just basically said all of your generations after you cannot come into Greenland.
Very interesting. That's very interesting. And you got to take that serious. Like, that is being said, especially with what's going on with, Greenland and America, and everybody's watching it and paying attention to it. And that is being said. So you got to watch you have to watch what is being said, and, take it with a grain of salt, but always apply it to the word.
And listen, get this. I'm about to tell you where mobility still exists on Earth, because you are someone that values stable income, predictable spending, life experience, super low crime risk, long-term contribution, residency pathways designed for you over just churning tourist visas and coming in every 30, 60, 90 days. These locations also happen to have the best healthcare, the ones that I'm going to mention in Africa, and predictable visa and residency renewals for the time being. Now, nothing exists forever, but if you are under the sound of my voice, you want to listen to these, because these just may be the Goshens that could totally change your life as an American or a Canadian or a UKian that wants to exit the West. So we'll start in Western Europe, obviously the United Kingdom. That's no surprise. The US is basically the daughter of the United Kingdom, so that relationship still stands. Ireland as well, same thing. There's a lot of Irish Americans. In fact, a lot of Americans have Irish originations. And then we have France, Germany, Spain, and Italy, if you are interested in any of those. Now let's go to North America. Obviously, Canada and Mexico were off of that list. So technically, Canadians and Mexicans could still immigrate to the US. They are not on the 75 country ban list, okay? In Asia, there are only 3. This is kind of wild. Just 3, which really tells you the only countries that the West, America, likes in Asia are Japan, South Korea, and Singapore. And then we have Oceania, only Australia and New Zealand. Then we have the Middle East, only the United Arab Emirates, Dubai, Qatar, and Saudi Arabia. Next, we have Latin America. So many people have been asking questions because we've had a lot of people both in the relocation intensives and then in the marketing agency that have businesses positioned in Latin America where they're thinking, hey, I either want to stay here long-term or I want to expand and go to multiple continents. So the countries on this list in Latin America: Costa Rica, Panama, Dominican Republic, and Ecuador. Africa is notably inclusive for Mauritius, Botswana, Namibia, Madagascar, and there's one other, Kenya. Kenya was the other one that did not hit the list. These countries are actively courting expatriates, investment, and skilled residents. They are not restricting entry.
Yeah, that's an interesting list right there, because that 75, that's something different. I know that's gonna, do not let that pass you, right? Do not let that just go away, because I know that's a huge deal right there. And I know we talked about it yesterday, but I know a lot of information is going to come out with that. So this list that my wife just mentioned, that's important, that you got to pay attention to, especially if you are, thinking about relocating to the continent here in Africa. Check these countries out. Do your research on these countries.
Yeah, and the most shocking thing, because Costa Rica is basically America. I mean, we've been to the Bahamas, but Costa Rica, we also have contacts in Costa Rica, people we do business with. And Costa Rica is so similar to the US in the cost of living. So it's not really like going abroad, but a lot of people have been wanting to go to Panama. There are a lot of people in Panama and these different countries that either want to liquidate their assets and go to the continent, or they just want to have their assets there but expand as well into different territories. But I also found it interesting, we talked about this yesterday, how countries like Rwanda or Tanzania or Ghana were on that list where they can no longer immigrate to the US. So people that are of those nations that are there trying to process immigrant visas, they're going to have to leave because they can only be there as a tourist, maybe a student if the ICE feels like letting them do that. Maybe they could go to Canada. They probably wouldn't desire to go to Mexico. Mexico isn't like the safest country on earth, but they could go there, I guess. Not sure what those requirements would be, but it's looking like globalization is over. Like, people are not just going to be traveling everywhere. There's going to be hotspots where expats and entrepreneurs and retirees are still able to go. But then there's also places that they're not going to be able to go, or that are going to be way too risky for them to go to. Which on one side is unfortunate, but on the other side is also good, because at least there's that optionality for you out there. And let me tell you, preparation beats panicking. This moment calls for real strategy and not fear, because remember, you have authority to tread on serpents and scorpions, and no power of the adversary can harm you. Walk in that in these times. But from a physical, more practical standpoint, putting your faith with your works, that means understanding which countries can still align with your lifestyle, your age, the generations after you who would be able to be a dependent on your residency, knowing the difference between tourist access and actual stability in Africa and Asia, evaluating healthcare, banking, and tax implications in advance. For mature adults, mobility is no longer casual. It's architectural. And this is a calm path forward, because if you're thinking about relocation, you want to diversify your assets, or you're running a business and you want to expand it elsewhere in the world on a digital nomad visa that they have in so many territories across the earth, then now's the time to move from curiosity to clarity. This is exactly what we walk through inside of the 4-week mature adult intensive. I believe you're on week 3. You're about to end the intensive next week, and a new cohort will start soon, February 8th. But here's the thing I just remembered about that. Somebody already grabbed a spot in the 5th cohort, and it's not even February yet. It's not even the end cycle where we say, hey, this is typically where clients come in. People are booking out the seats already, just like the state of the diaspora, because people want access to systems and infrastructure that makes sense. They don't want to rely on lifestyle anymore, because it's really not about lifestyle content. It's actually about how you can get into the systems that are available for you while they are still available. And so if that resonates with you, check out www.journeywithusmove-to-africa.com/services to read more and learn about the Mature Adult Intensive that begins February 8th at 2 p.m. Eastern for a full 4 weeks. It's a group coaching. We would love to have you. We would love to see you. If you were counting on this day of the diaspora, I'm sorry, but it's sold out. We're doing it live today. In fact, I'm about to send an email to those clients soon, but the world is not closing, but it is reorganizing. Those who understand the new rules early will keep their options open. Preparation is still possible, but what matters right now is timing.
Yeah, timing is very, very valuable right now. And also community. I love seeing the messages in the groups that we have with the Mature Adult Intensive and the State of Diaspora, and everyone is really helping each other. And that's something that, you know, in the time that we are in, we really need as you know, travelers, as you know, people that needs that community. It's a community-based thing, so, you know, make sure you click the links in the description, guys. Make sure you like the video, leave your comments below, and we will talk to you in the next video.
Shalom, shalom.
Shalom.